Welcome back to Ink and Imagination, a place where I hope I can encourage you to read and to write. Today we're going to be reading MUSSOPO and His Great Adventure. We are in chapter 6, and we'll begin reading now with A Friend in Need. MUSSOPO used his expert climbing skills to make his way up the tree to his friend. Moki positioned himself below the small rat that dangled from the tree limb in hopes that if she fell, that he might catch her in his mouth. The thought of falling upset Star even more, for she didn't know that the dog was a friend. She feared falling into the waiting teeth of the ferocious dog as he circled and barked below her. She was unaware that he didn't have many teeth. As MUSSOPO came closer to her on the flimsy limb, it began to break. He quickly retreated back to the trunk and hurriedly went over his options. He decided the best approach would be to try to reach her from the branch over her head, but it didn't look very strong, and he was afraid that it might break under his weight. He noticed that Moki was gathering a large pile of leaves directly under the tree, hoping to make a softer fall, if that was to happen. The limb that MUSSOPO was on leaned toward Star. He positioned himself where he could lower his tail down to her, but it didn't reach her. He repositioned, this time hanging from his tail. Opossums are able to hang from their tails for short periods of time. The limb leaned further down as it bore more of the possum's weight. He was able to touch her with his paw, but had no way of being able to hold her weight. He decided to use his mouth and immediately closed his toothy mouth around the skin on the back of the rat's neck, much like a cat carries her kittens. Star let go of her limb, and the added weight made MUSSOPO's limb bend even more. They heard it cracking under their weight. "Please don't drop me into that fierce dog's jaws," Star pleaded. MUSSOPO was unable to tell Star that he was a friend because his jaws were clamped tight onto the neck of the small rat. As the limb bent further, Star was able to reach the next limb down, which was much stronger. As she steadied her legs on the limb, MUSSOPO let go, his limb rising higher out of reach of Star. She hurried back to the safety of the trunk of the tree as MUSSOPO pulled himself back up from the hanging position and back to the trunk himself, finally reunited with Star. "Thank you for saving me, but what will we do about the ferocious dog at the bottom of the tree?" Star asked, trembling. "Don't worry, Star. He is a friend. He was only trying to help us. Let me introduce you to him." MUSSOPO smiled, showing all of his teeth. After making it to the bottom, Star was a little hesitant until Moki started licking her and she realized there was nothing to be afraid of. MUSSOPO explained that Moki had no family either, and that he was wanting to head east with them and try to find a home. He explained that Moki had trouble hearing, seeing, and even eating. He told her of their adventure and all they had experienced. Star waited patiently for her turn and finally told a story which included the rats, cars, caves, and hogs. She also told MUSSOPO of the beautiful tree and how it lost all of its leaves and was no longer pretty, but MUSSOPO thought she was long-winded and lost interest and wasn't really listening by that point. He yawned when she got done speaking. "We need to head east toward home," MUSSOPO said, "and we need to find shelter as we go." "A pretty tree?" Star asked. "No, not now. We must find something low to the ground to accommodate all of us. Moki cannot climb trees, but a cave would work just fine." MUSSOPO smiled at Moki, but he had not heard what was said. The three friends walked eastward together, hoping for home. The rats were frustrated that they could not find the small rat. They were mean and created havoc with everyone they came into contact with. If they found a turtle in the forest, they taunted him, causing him to retreat into a shell. Then they flipped him on his back and spun the shell in circles. They didn't care about other creatures. If they encountered a bird on a nest, they would try to steal an egg to eat it. The last time they tried, the bird pecked at them, guarding her eggs. Eventually, they gave up and moved on. Every animal that they encountered, they were mean to. They found a small bear cub, and although the cub was much larger than them, they could tell he was a baby. One of the rats sneaked up behind the cub and bit him on his hindquarters, causing him to cry out and spin around toward the rat. As the rat tried to bite the small cub on his nose, the other rat sneaked up behind and bit it again on its hindquarters, causing the same reaction. The rats were enjoying themselves, taking turns biting the cub on its backside and trying to bite it on its nose. They were so busy bullying the small cub that they never heard or saw the mother bear walk up to them. She only waited a moment before swinging her giant paw and knocking one of the rats about 10 feet from where they stood. She immediately went for the other rat, but he ducked, barely missing the blow from the large paw. He ran as fast as he could, passing the other rat as he lay sprawled out on the forest floor. The bear checked her cub for injuries, licking the bite marks on her baby and growling as she looked the direction of the rats. The rat finally raised his head. He was confused for a moment until he heard the low growl. When he saw the monster-sized bear, he jumped up and ran as fast as he could in the opposite direction. The mama bear let out a fierce growl that followed on the heels of the scared rat. He ran so fast that he passed his friend that had passed him up as he had laid helpless moments before from being knocked over by the bear's impact. Once they were together, they only planned what evil they could do next as they approached a snail slowly making its way along the path. What became of the poor snail is too evil to speak about, but once again, the rats showed how mean they truly are. The possum, dog, and rat were an unlikely sight together, if anyone had seen them, but as it was, they were deep in the forest away from judging eyes. They were tired from walking, but full from eating. It seemed that both Star and MUSSOPO have a knack for finding food. Moki had been introduced to new foods that he was able to choose, such as different berries that his friends ate. It was new to him, and he knew that it would take some getting used to, but he was thankful to have friends that cared enough to make sure that he had something to eat. As they walked, they had been on a constant look for shelter for the night. Although possums are nocturnal, meaning that they stay awake at night and sleep in the day, MUSSOPO was not aware of this and chose to sleep at night. The three friends found a large hollowed-out tree that had fallen long ago and decided to stay at this location for the night. As Moki made a comfortable spot to lay down on, MUSSOPO nestled in close to him and could feel the warmth from his skin. It didn't take but a second for Star to nuzzle up close to MUSSOPO to stay warm. The three friends went to sleep very quickly and felt quite safe together. Thank you for listening to Chapter 6 of MUSSOPO and His Great Adventure. I hope you had a good time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And remember, keep writing, keep reading. The next chapter could be yours.